the Toronto Sun and uh, CTV did a article on Stephen Fletcher, an MP, is a quadriplegic. I'm going to get my notes here. Now, the impression I got from Stephen Fletcher at the timing of him tabling two bills, one for euthanasia, another one for assisted suicide. And from reading the articles that were written, some of his quotes, to me, he's like acting like Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve was a guy who was acting as Superman, and he fell off a horse, broke his spine, and was left quadriplegic. He spent the rest of his life wishing he was on his horse again, and he never really integrated with disabled people who've never been able to do what Christopher Reeve did throughout his life. So he was pro-euthanasia, and his only interest in life was to get stem cells to cure him and get him back on his horse. Superman rides away. Stephen Fletcher abstained from the 2010 vote against the last of three bills, private members' bills, by Francine Lamont. NDP leader Tom McClare said in one article, the Winnipeg CTV News article, the Commission will be taking a very close look at each case as it occurs and provide recommendations over time on how to best improve the process. Another quote says, the government has to modernize our approach, whether that means working with the provinces and territories on the health aspects of this or modernizing the criminal code, he said. Mr. Fletcher has taken a step in the right direction. After all the debates, after all the bills, the kill bills, which have been surfaced and tabled and voted on, they keep cropping up. You would think that normal thinking people would get the point that if so many kill bills have been voted down in the legislature, there must be some really good reason. But no, these opportunists just keep at it. They got big bucks. They got big charisma. And they are hell-bent at getting laws passed. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. While the people who know what the Right to Die movement is really all about really have lots to worry about a law being passed. They are really furious that Canada does not have a kill bill passed into law. And they have also done every dirty thing they can to get one passed. Now, I've usually been pretty ruthless in previous videos about what I have to say to all the crybaby stories by all the people dying and demanding laws passed for their deaths. What I've known for and keep seeing many times over is that once a law is passed and anybody objects to an execution which is carried out without consent, against consent, all of a sudden those interested in the execution turn around and say, keep your nose out of it. It's a private family matter. Well, that's only partly true. It's only partly true because to turn it into just a private family matter, you had to get the sympathy of the government, whether it be state, national, or federal government, to make it a government issue, not just a private family matter. So I don't care who you are out there. Don't anybody tell me to stop. It's just a private family matter. It is a government matter because you people make it a government matter. So once your laws are passed, don't give me this stuff. It's a private family matter. Mind your own business. Because it is my business. It is the business of all the disability rights organizations. And it is the business of all the doctors' organizations and associations who oppose legalizing euthanasia, who oppose legalizing assisted suicide. In this country, or in any province or state, or the other countries where more activist groups are springing up now to oppose and overturn the laws which have been passed by hook and crook. It used to be that, oh, it's only for the terminally ill. Yeah. It's only for those in the end of life and have less than 6 months to live. And they're in intolerable pain. And of course, there were safeguards to prevent the slippery slope of euthanasia. And after the first kill bill was passed into law, it didn't take long for those safeguards to be forgotten. So then, later down the road, the next jurisdiction gets a law passed, and oh, our safeguards are going to be better than the other guy's safeguards. Yeah, they're going to be better. And as the executions speeded up, slowly but surely, and then the non-consensual executions got more in number and ratio to the overall executions. Oh, another jurisdiction says, well, our safeguards are really going to be good. That's the overall attitude. And people suck it up. Populations in these countries are scared to death because these duty to die organizations under an umbrella of names. Now they got it all written off as medical aid. How sweet. Medical aid in dying. We love you. We're gonna kill you. Of course, the people who want it, they get what they want. But most of the people who get executed, they don't want it. Okay, I'm gonna go down here. So this NDP leader says the government has to modernize our approach. No, they don't. And as far as the laws being, criminal code being modernized, no. It doesn't need modernized at all. Or are you having a double standard? So, down here, this really gets good. Stephen Fletcher himself. Stephen Fletcher said, I'm obviously part of that group. Talking about the disability community. I'm obviously part of that group. The disabled community is not monolithic in its thinking. And for one thing, Stephen Fletcher doesn't know a thing about the disabled community, the disability community. And I'm not just talking about his hometown or his country. I'm talking about around the world. Stephen Fletcher doesn't know anything. Neither did Christopher Reeve. After they had their life event, and they were recovered. They lived in a bubble the rest of their lives. They lived in a bubble that they were not part of disabled people all around them. And that's a big difference. You can't just get disabled now and decide you wanna get a kill bill passed so you can get out of this life into your next life, or what you hope to just go to sleep and then be a threat to the rest of us. You can't just jump into our community this way, be the king of both worlds, this undisabled world and disabled world. You get laws passed that threaten the rest of us. No go. And he goes on about his kill bill. Oh, the standards are very high. They will argue about the slippery slope. I don't buy into that. But Stephen Fletcher doesn't have to buy into it. He can continue to live in a bubble. I think a few years ago he did mention in one testimony that he was happy to be alive. He was happy he didn't just get executed back there in '96. Maybe he's trying to be the freedom fighter for those who want their executions. Or maybe he does want to be executed for himself anytime he wants. Well, Stephen Fletcher and everybody else, you could do what's illegal. And it is legal. It is stop eating, stop drinking fluids, stop taking any medical treatments if you're on treatments. And when you're in stress, they'll give you morphine. If you're in stress, if you want to be sedated until you die, it's all legal. And I hope the government is going to again recognize what is legal and put a stop to these constant orangutan bills, kill bills, which threaten most of us. And more than the doctors being the threat, it's the nurses, their assistants, especially when in long-term care situations, you've got nurses and nurse assistants. When new people come in, they show up real quick. Who they want to befriend and who they want to kind of play with and use for a toy to play with and be an enemy. It's around the world. Stephen Fletcher doesn't know anything about that. Neither did Christopher Reeve. And neither do all these this constant pool of people who are being diagnosed with cancer and all kinds of other diseases, and they want to get their kill bill. So they get on stage or on radio and talk show circuits. Then they get the soap opera people to put them on the soap opera. Oh, my suffering. And in the last few years, they've been all of a sudden moving into emotional pain. You know what? This stuff needs to be flushed down the toilet. And as far as the issues of people not being uh, uh, given proper care, that's because in 2010, after the last kill bill by Francine Lamont was done away with, there was and members of Parliament and healthcare providers, they formed organizations and coalitions to come up with a better palliative care system, the better training and pain management of people who are in difficult pain, and it was up to the provinces to put it into effect. If they didn't put it into effect, then blame your province. But you should not be royally treated like on stage all the time. It's almost like American Idol. All these crybaby stories. Oh, I'm suffering. Yeah, well, I'm sorry that people do suffer so much, and whether diagnosed with cancer, Alzheimer's, or whatever. But you know, I've been around for a number of Alzheimer's patients, and they're happy. Why? What's the big hurry to get rid of them? You know, when you're in a situation when you're perfectly healthy, it's always been our mentality to never want to be in a situation where we'd lose our mind or where we couldn't do anything for ourselves. However, the circumstances change. As human beings do adapt to changing circumstances. In 1993, I had my first respiratory failure, full respiratory arrest. I was bleeding to death, and I thought I had cancer, and I wanted to just go to the hospital, die in the emergency room, so my roommates wouldn't have to fill out any police reports. But a doctor intervened. And that was during the time of the Sid Rodriguez case and Robert Latimer and all that stuff. And when the doctor intervened in my case and I woke up, I don't know how many days it was later, but it was the most traumatizing event anybody can ever undergo. And I expect you went through this. I expect Stephen Fletcher went through the exact same thing. You know, with me, I felt like my right lung wasn't even there. I thought, what did they do? Take my lung out? And I had to really fight to breathe. But I've been there, I've done that. But if the doctor who intervened in my case in 1993 at Howell, Quebec, if he ever had any idea that I'm alive today, that guy would probably freak out. And I asked him before, when I got discharged, why he did intervene. And he explained that I didn't have cancer and I bled to death from protein deficiency. And all my life I've had eating disorders. So I drive on my digestive system is I drive in a car with a broken steering wheel. So the bottom line is Stephen Fletcher and other people have survived pretty fatal stuff. And the fact that he's alive and well and probably accomplished things he might not have accomplished if he hadn't had plowed into that moose on a highway, I think he ought to count as blessings. By the way, I expect he's probably drunk the night he plowed into the moose. I don't think anybody who does destructive stuff, behavior, and disables themselves deserves some right, some legal right to end and to demand legal executions against targeted populations, targeted sectors of populations. Whether he buys it or not, what a threat it is to the rest of us is not an issue. It doesn't matter what he thinks or anybody else thinks. There's a lot of us have read the reports of the Right to Die movement for quite a few years. The last 2 years, the Right to Die movement has gone across this country denying all those reports. Denying them. So, they're professional liars and they're professional serial killers. Those are good people to look up to. Oh yeah, and don't forget, they're your doctors. As totally traumatizing the real doctors. Real doctors don't want anything to do with these crapheads. Just before I go, I'm going to tell you, disabled people are conveniently imagined to be the biggest cost to the healthcare industry, when it's a lie. There's a lot of people born disabled, and yeah, we do have a fair amount of healthcare costs that we're growing up while we're kids, having surgery and stuff like that. But once we get and become adults, we don't live off the medical system. We don't live on medications like a lot of other people do all their lives. I sent a letter to Crenshaw as he was a prime minister, whose government was throwing out a woman named Angela Chesters because she was from Germany, married to a Canadian, and she was immigrating. The Canadian government said no. Until she had multiple sclerosis, the diagnosis, she had never been unemployed a day in her life. And that's what the Canadian government did to her, because as immigration felt, at some point in her life she might have overloaded the healthcare need. And it's a lie. I told Craig Chan in my letter that if he would care to get off his throne and get into every major hospital in every city of this country and take a look at who it is dragging down the healthcare system. Those immigrants in the healthcare needs department, and not one of them was questioned about or suspected of dragging down Canada's healthcare system. But they got through the immigration gates because they, quote, weren't disabled. Now, one more thing. With a growing number of diseases, people should consider going after the chemical companies, especially Monsanto. Out of all the chemicals that are being bought and sold every day of the week, there are 80,000 chemicals. Only 280 ever met FDA approval. People should start to think about that. There is a way too much preservatives in the food system. The white flour, bleached white flour industry should be shut down. All the stuff, the fruit colors, the dyes, things in the food and the drinks, we don't need it. Why have people's livers being trashed by all these destructive things to ourselves? You want to reduce the overloaded problem of healthcare? Go after the chemical companies and shut them down. Then there won't be so many people freaking out about the end of life. Take care.